I'm gonna eat a quick lunch and then I'm gonna be making pesto. I know it's not the season for it. I'll definitely share this again in the summer, but I've got a bunch of basil that I grew in this arrow garden. So I'm gonna show it to you and what I do, but there's one thing that people miss all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? What do you think that is? Put it here. I can't tell you how many times I've watched on stories, on reels, people making pesto and missing this crucial step. And that is toasting the pine nuts. Listen, pine nuts are delicious on their own and they're great, but you're really missing a big key flavor there because when you toast them properly and evenly, I'll show you how I do them at the end, it really brings out the buttery flavor that it has, and it's just such a completely different pesto than when you just put them in raw or toast them in a dry pan. Everything, there's no recipe here, I'm just eyeballing everything. So it's not as much basil you could see here as I thought. So I'm actually only gonna add 1 clove of garlic first. I'm gonna let that go so that I kind of mince it before I get started. And I'm just gonna eyeball everything and I'll show you what I do. You want the basil to have the least amount of time in the food processor because the heat is what's gonna make it turn black and you want it as green as possible. So I have the garlic minced up here. With this amount of basil, I'm gonna do about half of what I toasted here. I would say that's maybe a 1/4 cup, I don't know. I'm gonna pulse this along with some cheese, also completely eyeballing this. And then I'm gonna add my basil, okay? You could always start with a little and add some more. Traditionally, pesto is actually made in a mortar and pestle, not in a food processor, but this is just faster. So this is about the consistency that I went. You don't want to puree it too much right away. At this point is when I'm going to add my basil in. Okay. And then I'm going to stream in my olive oil. So you saw that I added salt and now I'm scraping down the sides and kind of assessing, you know, how is the consistency? Do I like it more chunky like this? Do I want it more saucy? For me, this is pretty good. I'm gonna taste it and then make adjustments from here. I have my pine nuts here and I've got olive oil. I'm going to add just enough to cover. It's cold now, so it's a little harder to distribute, but cold pan. I'm going to add my heat and I'm going to wait for this to heat up. And as I start to see the bubbles forming, I'm going to start moving it around. I'll show you. I've got my mise en place here. I have a little colander with a container to catch the oil. And you can see that it's slowly starting to heat up. See those little bubbles there? Okay, I'm gonna start to lift it off of the flame just because I don't want this. You could do that too, but see how the edges are starting to get dark? Okay, with this motion, as you kind of rotate like this, I can raise the heat because I'm gonna lift it. But as you do this, what's happening is you're gonna generously coat the oil throughout all of the pine nuts and it's going to be much more evenly brown and you'll see when I'm done. But just keep doing this, okay? I can lower it for like a bit just so that it gets that direct contact with the heat and you'll see that it starts to get foamy, but you still have to pay attention, okay? Can you hear the fizzing and the foaming? You just keep doing this. It's going to take a little bit. Okay, truthfully, it's better to actually be on here, but it's loud, okay? So I don't want to annoy your ears, but that is the best way to do it. Obviously, if you have an electric stove, it's smoother and it's much better. But do you see how it's starting to really make those nice and golden brown? When it gets to the point where you're like, okay, this is good, almost before it's done, you're going to want to strain it because it's going to keep cooking. So take a look. Do you see that? All right, I'm almost there. This looks good to me. I like them a little dark, but right around here, see, I'm above. Okay, right here, see that beautiful color? I'm gonna drain it. Now watch. Take a look at that color. Now it's hard to see because this is red, but yes, you can use the oil again.